What is going on, my friends? Welcome back. Glad to be here. And I thought, you know, I'm not doing much right now. And, just kind of hanging outside or whatever. Don't really got nothing planned. And I was looking at comments, going through email, what I could anyways. And, make sure I turned off that cab. When I open my doors, my cab lights come on. I don't want them to stay on. So I'm going to see if I can turn them off. Well, I was hoping to. Let's see. Anyways, but I thought I would do a podcast and share my story about some things. That being, how I ended up, because I got a lot of new supporters that might not fully understand my entire situation. And I thought, well, I will share that with them so that, people can better understand, have I been blind my whole life? How did it happen? All that stuff. So here I am, and I figured we'll talk about it. All right. So basically, I'll first say that I was born visually impaired. That's the first thing. When my mom had me, the umbilical cord had wrapped around my neck. It was wrapped around, I believe my mom told me like 3 or 4 times. And that's what caused it. Make sure no, it's on. So, the doctors obviously, they, I guess, didn't think anything about it because, they quickly, took care of it. And, I was breathing, everything was fine. But I was, they thought I was normal. They didn't see nothing wrong. They actually didn't realize that I was visually impaired at all up until I was probably 3 or 4 years old. It was after I started walking. It was actually a little bit past that. I think I might even be a little bit older because I was riding a bike. So, and I was running into stuff, riding my bike into the trees, walking off the steps, walking off the porch. And then that's when she got me to the doctor and they figured out, that my eyes had been damaged. So the retina is actually part of and I can't even pronounce my eye condition, but I know part of it's called pigmentosa, retina pigmentosa or something like. I can't never pronounce it, but that's part of it. And it's also got to do with the tissue in the back of my eye. So that kind of gives you an idea of kind of what it is, I guess. I started out in a public school. I went to public school for about 2 years, I believe, roughly. And then I was transferred to a blind school. And that was, I think 2nd, 3rd grade, something like that. But once I got moved to the blind school, everything kind of went in the wrong path for me. I wasn't accepting the fact that I was visually impaired. I didn't want anything to do with, acknowledging that I was visually impaired. I wanted to be that normal kid. I wanted to have that normal teenage life. And all the way up until I was probably, well, technically, all the way up until I got married was when I changed about the way I saw things. I hated life for what it was for a long time, for my younger years. You know, I was smoking cigarettes at the age of 13. I was drinking at the age 13, 14 years old. I couldn't stay out of trouble. Always getting into fights and all this stuff constantly. And it was no one's fault but my own, because that's what I did. Because I didn't believe anything else. You know, nothing else was, believed it. But I didn't, never put the blame on anybody. You know, it was a simple fact. I didn't believe in anything that I was going through. One of them deals where, I definitely won't sit back and say, well, it's my parents' fault. Will I say that I was raised that well? No. I mean, I was kicked out at 15 because of my stepfather. And so he was picked over us kids, and that's the fact of it. That is the straight code fact of it. And that really didn't help, considering that I was already angry at the world anyways, and angry about being blind and all this. But, so I had that on top of it, trying to deal with being blind. I always wanted to do things that everybody else did. I mean, at 18, when I could see a little bit better, I was even driving cars without a license. Yeah. Hard to believe, hard for me to even look back, and I asked myself how, but I guess one, because I did see a little bit better. And I would only drive at night, or when it was a really cloudy day. But then, I got married, and that's when I realized that, I got to stop doing this. I got to stop hating the world for something that no one did. It was just pretty much life, and the nature of life took its course on me, and that's just it's who I was meant to be. There was a reason, I guess I told myself, hey, there's a reason I'm this way, and I got to accept that, and I got to grow up. And the first thing I knew, if before I could take care of my son, or my daughter, actually. It was my daughter first. I said, well, I've got to come to, see me for who I am and accept that before I can take responsibility on anything else. And I did. So, life was a bitch, growing up, being visually impaired, being the kid that, couldn't play ball or, any of that stuff. Couldn't, do a lot of things that the other kids could. And it was depressing. But believe it or not, I didn't go through no depression as far as being on medications or anything like that. I really, honestly, I worked my eyes as hard as I could work them when I was younger. But, that had to come to an end, and reality had to come in, and that's, when my life started going for the better. And there's still times that I think about it. I'll think about how I wish I could, just jump in my vehicle and take off when I want, or, do any of that. But, you and I think everybody goes through that. I really do. Everybody that's visually impaired They can't tell me that they don't. I know they do. We all do. But it was definitely a teenage life that I wish, I would have just accepted it for what it was and lived it the best I could back then. But you can't go back. And that's why now I'm, the way I am now. That's why I want to, help people and give back to people and make it the best life possible. Going through college right now as a full-time student, there's challenges that I face every day, but I get through them. And like I said, it's people at college do look at me a little differently, and I know they do, but I don't hold that against them because, I am different from what they are. They're not, they don't have a disability of any kind, so they're going to look at me different. But that's also why I started it first started out as a group at the college to help those that have disabilities going through colleges to have more support and stuff. And I started out as a group, but then it's getting ready to move up from a group to an organization because of, all the hard work that I put into it. I've got a best friend of mine that's a part of it. I've got another girl that's, she joined it and is a part of it. And I've got some really good supporters behind me. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I know I didn't really go year by year on my story being blind, but I know there was some that might not have heard that video, so I wanted to share it with you again. So people understood me better for who I am and kind of what I went through. But back to the parent thing, I want to talk about that a minute. How your parents treat you when you are a teenager, it does affect what you do being brung up. And the way you look at things being brung up in a somewhat broken family is what I call it. I was always the one that got the less of attention, and there was nothing I could do about that. That was just the way it was. But once I got older, I started kind of just working with myself and telling myself that this is just the way it is and I got to make the best of it. I've got to do the best I can to be the best that I can. So, if you are, going through situations, you got to look at things for the best views possible. You got to look at it in the best way that you can, even if it's the worst situation you ever been in. If you look at it in a positive way, it does make it easier. And I know that for a fact. That's not me just guessing. I can't count how many times there was girls that I liked and got turned down because of my eye condition. It's even happened me being older, I was with when I got my divorce, I got with a girl, and I still have that soft spot for her in my heart because she was absolutely everything to me. And even though she done me wrong, and there's a long story behind that, I'd be glad to share it if anybody ever wants to hear it. But I still have that spot in my heart for her where I always love her because she did. In the beginning, things was great. So, anyways, you guys let me know if you want to hear more about that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I hope that it kind of helped you better understand me. If you got any questions, please just let me know. I'll be glad to answer. Or if you want to hear about, how that worked out and what happened with that other situation, I'll be glad to tell you. But I hope this helps people better understand a little bit more kind of what I went through. So shoot away with questions if you got them. Otherwise, I love you guys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that. And I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Bye-bye.